Alexa and I have made it to Taiwan's empty east coast. And if you can't tell, the weather doesn't help. Over the next few days, Alexa and I are going to explore all over the east coast, starting from the very southern tip of Taiwan, all the way up to Jiufen, where there's going to be a really cool geopark. And in between, there's going to be caves, there's going to be waves, and there's going to be a whole earthquake-ridden town called Hualien. And you guys are coming along for the ride.
Good morning. Geoff and I made it to the southern point of Taiwan. We're staying in the Kenting National Park area. We are going to explore everything the southern part of Taiwan has to offer. Today we're going to do a hike, hopefully see some monkeys and a cave, and then check out the beach area, because Taiwan is not really known for its beaches, but we're excited to explore those. But before we get started on that, I want to talk a little bit about our hotel experience. It's interesting. It's a little bit older. We had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out where was the best area to stay in Kenting. We are here on the shoulder season, so it's winter. There aren't that many people here right now. And our hotel looks like it hasn't been updated in the last 15 years.
Alexa and I have made it to Kenting National Park, and I thought this map was really funny in a dark kind of way. So this is a map not of Kenting National Park, it's a map of the nuclear power plant. And then if you look closely, you can see this big circle all the way around it that basically says if that nuclear power plant goes into meltdown, this is the whole area that will be impacted. And we are dead in that area. I'm sure it's fine though. We are definitely here in the off season because there is almost nobody here.
All right, we're heading into our first cave. Hi, buddy. Oh, you're cute. After that brief monkey intermission, we're gonna head down to the cave. I have an irrational fear of bats, so I will be covering up. Is that a frog?
That is a frog.
There's so much wildlife. This is very similar to the cave that we saw in Canada with stalagmites.
Except in Canada, we actually went into the cave.
Yeah.
One cave down, one monkey down, and one frog down. Seeing a lot of life here in Kenting. Mount Zhejiang. This is really cool. All throughout this pathway that we've been walking on is actual coral reef. Now, obviously, we are not underwater. This coral reef has been raised up above the ocean, now sits here on top of a pretty large hill on the southern point of Taiwan. This is the only place in Taiwan where you're gonna see coral reef above the ocean water. It's very cool, very unique, did not expect it. Last week, Alexa and I were in Taipei, and we did a hike that required a lot of stairs. Here we are in Kenting, and again, a lot of stairs. I'm very tired.
I think this is gonna be pretty cool. Ready?
I'll say one thing, Taiwan, very seismically active. I wouldn't want to be here if an earthquake hit.
This is like the Titanic statement. We don't want to put that energy out there.
I've got really big Titanic vibes right now.
You can't put that energy out there. Bad.
I've been forced to recuse that. I don't stand by it. Once again, I recant my statement. This is how deep we are. That's a good 20, 30 feet right there. This is a tight fit, but there's still a path, so I know we're supposed to be here. And here's the thing about stalagmites and stalactites, whichever one hangs from the ceiling, is that you don't really see them until you collide with them. Oh boy. We have made it to the other side of Fairy Cave. Really cool experience. Definitely loved walking through the cave. Reminded me a lot of Vancouver Island, except it had a really nice pathway.
I didn't see any bats. I don't think I needed to be as concerned as I was. It was really neat. I'm glad we did this.
Onward to the next place. The karst topography here is really, really cool to see. There's a few places in the United States where you can see something similar, mostly in the Appalachian foothills of Ohio and Kentucky, a little bit in southern Indiana, but otherwise it's kind of rare, especially in this magnitude.
We're about to head into the Silver Dragon Cave. This is one of Kenting's really unique coral limestone caves. This one is in the shape of a triangle, so as we're walking through, it'll be wider on the bottom and go more narrow through the top.
Alexa has a deep fear of bats, so every time we go into one of these caves or ravines, up goes the hood. I just can't stress enough how awesome it is that this park is so empty. Alexa and I basically have the place to ourselves. There's a few people here and there, but aside from that, we just sort of wander and do whatever we want. No crowds, no fuss, very easy. I don't imagine all of our trips are going to be like this.
Just a little history about the national park. This is Taiwan's first national park, kind of. There are other national parks in Taiwan that are older than Kenting National Park. For example, Taroko Gorge National Park that we're hopefully going to see on our road trip. But this is the first one where Taiwan as a country created a national park system. So I think it was created in the 80s. Pro tip, go to the observation tower. You get an amazing view, and there's also a restaurant. So you can eat and have literally the best view in Kenting.
It has gotten colder, windier, and rainier here on the southern tip of Taiwan. So that means Alexa and I are going to head back, and of course, we're going to head to the beach. Because when else would you visit the beach? Other than when it's colder, windier, and rainier. Some mighty blue water.
The ocean is such a rich blue color. I would love to go swimming, but as you can tell, it is super windy. So there's no swimming that's going to be happening on this trip, unfortunately.
I think what might surprise most people, even though it's February here in Taiwan, is that the water is quite warm. And it's because the ocean currents are circulating up from the equator, rather than from up north, like in the Russia Arctic region.
So Kenting used to be a very popular spot for Taiwanese people to come and vacation. It was their beach town for a really long time. In April, they were really well known in the 2000s to early 2010s for this Scream Rock Festival that would happen. But since then, over the past 15 years, decade or so, it has declined in terms of popularity. And you can kind of see that as you're going through the town. Like you see the remnants of a really lively beach town that kind of had more of a party atmosphere. And it's just like not the case anymore, at least not as much as it used to be. You can definitely see that in our hotel. It looks like there used to be a really fun bar and restaurant. And now it's kind of just where some outdoor cats hang out. They're cute.
Again, it's February, so I'm assuming it picks up in summer, but I doubt it's a shadow of its former self. Well guys, it's been really fun exploring Kenting and the southern tip of Taiwan. Unfortunately, Alexa and I have a lot of work to do. So we're heading back to our hotel, but we'll see you guys tomorrow when we take off to explore Taiwan's empty east coast. Good morning. Alexa and I spent an amazing day here on the southern tip of Taiwan. We explored Kenting, we did a little beach stuff, but now it's time for us to head back north towards Taipei. But instead of going up the west coast, we're gonna go up the east coast. And I think what we're going to find is that it is a very different experience, mostly because there's not that many people or cities on that side of Taiwan. We have a lot of driving to do today, so let's get to it.
After about 3 hours of driving down some windy roads, Geoff and I are making a quick pit stop at Brown Boulevard. Brown Boulevard is a really popular area to take a bike or go for a walk along rice paddies. As you can see, it's really beautiful. We're lucky. There are still rice paddies here and they're not fully submerged and muddy. This area became famous after a Taiwanese coffee company called Mr. Brown Coffee filmed a commercial here. So this is a really popular area on the east side of Taiwan to get on a bike and bike along rice paddies. So we're taking a quick stroll and checking it out.
One of the most common misconceptions about why people don't live someplace, such as here on the eastern side of Taiwan, is because there's no areas for agriculture, or there's no flat lands, or it's all very mountainous, there's no water, that kind of stuff. And I just kind of want to point out that we are here in a very large valley on the eastern side of Taiwan, and in theory, a large city could be established here. Now, obviously, it didn't. Taiwan established most of their cities on the west coast, but it does go against the popular notion of where and how populations and cities are sort of established and where they're formed. It's a very cool experience walking through. Alexa and I have officially made it to the Pacific Ocean here on the eastern side of Taiwan. We actually made it there a little earlier, but I didn't see a good spot to pull over, so we've been driving up it for a little while now. But it's still really cool. It's very windy. The waves are howling, and it's nice to just stretch our legs a little bit. So one of the most interesting things about this road trip is just how similar it is to driving down the west coast of the United States. Alexa and I, a few weeks ago, we drove down from about Eugene, Oregon, or Florence, Oregon, all the way down to the California Redwoods. And along that trip, we went down this small little coastal highway with small little coastal towns and small coastal vibes. And this is the exact type of experience in Taiwan. It is eerily similar to the west coast of the United States. Alexa and I were driving down the coastal highway here, and we looked up and there's just like this massive cave. And so we turned around, circled back, and now we're here going to try and explore it a little bit. Apparently, there are macaque monkeys here. And if we see them and they try and get close to us, we are supposed to ignore them as much as possible. It's kind of windy though, and kind of cold. I don't know if we're gonna see them. They might be all huddled up somewhere.
I hope so.
That's part of the adventure. This is the massive cave that we saw from the road, and it is huge, probably 30 meters high. It looks like it goes pretty deep. Unfortunately, we can't go in and see it. I don't know if that's normal or if it's because Taiwan got hit by a really large earthquake last year. This whole area kind of got impacted. It's still really impressive to see in person. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time here, but I would love to try and see at least one more cave. So let's boogie up to see more caves. Alexa, is this a cave?
No, because we can still see lightness.
One thing that we learned when we went caving up in Vancouver Island is that in order for it to be a true cave, it can't have any natural light. There's a lot of natural light here. This is more of a hole in the side of a mountain. Monkey warning. Beware of these little guys. They look cute in the picture, but they are mischievous. Sadly, it looks like we're not able to make it to the last cave because of what looks like earthquake damage. Womp womp.
Bummer. We've made it to our hotel in Hualien. We are going to call it a night. It's been a long day of driving, so we need to rest up. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good morning. It is our last day here in Taiwan. And if you've noticed, the weather is still a little cloudy and a little rainy. But we still have a whole lot to see here, which includes the Taroko Gorge and a geopark in the very far northern part of Taiwan. That's a lot of driving. So let's hit the road.
We've made it to Taroko National Park. We were really excited when we were planning our trip to Taiwan because we were hoping to see Taroko Gorge. But unfortunately, there was a huge earthquake in Hualien County in April of 2024. And then the second half of the year, there were several typhoons that really did a lot of damage to this area. So a lot of it is actually closed. We're at the National Park Visitor Center now, and we're hoping to get some scenery of Taroko, but we'll see how much we can get.
I've talked quite a bit about a lot of aspects of why this area of Taiwan isn't as populous as the western side. But the fact that Taroko Gorge is closed, I think, highlights some very obvious reasons. This entire region sits on a fault line. And even though all of Taiwan is impacted by earthquakes and typhoons, it's really the east side that gets the brunt of it. And I think for that reason, a lot of people just don't really want to live over here. Well, we were really hoping at least one trail would be open, and it's just not looking like it. All of the trails seem to be closed still. You do see a lot of trucks moving in and out of the gorge, which means that they are actively working on restoring it, rebuilding trails, rebuilding roads, but it is clearly still very much a work in progress here, and we're just not going to be able to see very much of it, unfortunately.
Lots of helpful information on this sign, different routes, how long it'll take, but my favorite part is the things you really need to know.
The rest of that information, you don't need. You just need to pay attention to that one tiny little section, if the trails are open. Well, with that, I think we're gonna head on up north, continue on our way up to the Geopark, because there's just not a whole lot more to do here.
Today is our last full day in Taiwan, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what it's like to rent a car and road trip around the country. I would say generally it's been pretty easy and comfortable. I think the hardest part at first was just reading the signs. Geoff and I don't read Mandarin, so that was a little bit of a learning curve for us. And we still don't speak Mandarin or know how to read it, but we've just been able to figure out how to navigate the roads a little bit easier. I think the other thing has been we've driven through a lot of very windy mountain roads, which can be a little scary at times. And then finally, I think the thing that surprised me the most about driving around Taiwan is just the amount of tunnels that are here and how long the tunnels are. We've been through at least one, maybe a few that are at least 1 kilometer long, and that's a long time to be driving through a tunnel. If you're ever in Taiwan and want to get out of the major city, I would say go for it. It's not scary, it's totally easy. Rent a car.
Alexa and I have officially made it to the Geopark, and oh boy, are there a lot of people here. Which is really interesting because we just spent 2 whole days on the East Coast where there was basically nobody. So we're kind of overwhelmed a little bit right now.
So here at the Geopark, all of these rocks are made out of limestone, and what that means is that they're subject to change as weather patterns, so a lot of wind and water, but also any earth movements, they're constantly changing shape. So what we see today is likely not going to look like this in the next 100, 200, 500 years.
Thankfully, Alexa and I have managed to lose most of the people at this point. As it turns out, if you just keep heading north, most people don't go this far.
Because there's a hill, you have to climb up some stairs. Geoff and I just hiked all the way up to this viewing spot, and the first thing we see is a wrecked ship. And not just any wrecked ship, a huge wrecked ship. While it was a little surprising at first, it's not that surprising because this area was a primary shipping route between Taiwan and mainland China. Yet the waters around here are very treacherous and cause a lot of ships to wreck. I didn't think we would actually get to see one, but we did.
It's worth noting as well that this isn't exactly an old ship. It's pretty modern. So whatever happened here, I would guess happened within the last decade, if even that. Well guys, we did it. From the very far southern tip of Taiwan, now all the way up to the very far northern part, we have traversed all the way around Taiwan. Last week we started in Taipei and we went all the way down the west side. For this episode, we went all the way up the east side, and it has been quite the adventure.
I think what surprised me the most were just how many caves are in Taiwan. So many cool caves.
I think the thing that didn't surprise me the most, but was still the most impressive, was really just how empty the eastern side of Taiwan really is. It has small little towns dotting the coast, but otherwise there's just not that much going on. And because of that, it ends up being very beautiful. If you guys ever come to Taiwan, don't skip the East Coast. So if you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel and, of course, like the video. Next week, we are off to Hanoi in Vietnam.
So come back then for another adventure.
Linda, 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 Linda. No, we gotta do that over.
You're going so high.
You gotta, like, it has to be noticeable.
Oh.